Ladies and gentlemen, my mic is too quiet. Now it isn't. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to SHOUTCraft Clan Wars right here on MLG TV. My name is TotalBiscuit, and it is my absolute pleasure once again to be joined by Mr. In Control Robinson.
Thanks for having me, man. Always a pleasure.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for coming along and helping out with the cast. It makes things much easier and much more enjoyable, I'm sure, for a lot of people. So it's great to have you here. And we've got a Clash of the Foreign Titans, really, don't we? We've got Root versus mYinsanity.
We do. Both these teams have really... I mean, Root's been a staple since the beginning of Starcraft 2, and even actually, I think, a little bit before that, perhaps under a different name. But I digress. Both these teams have raised up some nice foreign talent. I know that Kiwi Kaki has came back
he has.
for a couple of tournaments. That's really cool.
Yeah, he has returned. I'm not sure if he's playing today. So this is kind of a matchup of the clerical era because we got a bunch of information, and more to the point, we got a bunch of misinformation prior to the show going live that said that certain things had to be moved around. So that's exactly what we're going to do. We're actually going to start the Legacy of the Void match between Queenie and Supernova, which is, on paper, the mismatch of the century.
It's a horrible match.
Yeah, let's be just reasonable and fair about it. Let's just say that Queenie is definitely the underdog, and if Queenie actually beats Supernova in this matchup, it will be a very large upset.
Yes, to your point, on paper, like you said, it's terrible, but man... you know, she's got... It's funny to look at this, but she has 65 Legacy of the Void points or whatever, so that means she's been playing it quite a bit. She's a very popular stream. She's a great gal. She's awesome for the scene.
Absolutely.
It's just that Supernova is a former Code S top-tier Terran.
Yes. And
Terran is also very strong in Legacy of the Void. It's not nearly as strong as it was. They toned down the Cyclone a little bit. It's made it really nice. But man, I can't see how she would stand up to it. I mean, I myself would be in the same boat as her. I think I would stand almost zero chance against him, and I'm a more established pro, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't really help that she's playing Protoss, that right now, I think a lot of people agree needs a bit of love, let's be frank. You know, the Adept is a cool unit in concept, but it doesn't fill that gaping void in the Protoss early game where the gateway units just aren't up to snuff versus other races. And that seems to be like the big problem. Yeah, if you can get your tech going, great, but they nerfed the Colossus, which certainly doesn't help. The Adept basically seems, at least in my opinion anyway, to have almost zero use in the mid-game outside of a harassment unit. So the question, I suppose, becomes, what exactly do you do as a composition if you can't rely on Colossus the same way that you were able to before?
Well, this last patch helped a lot, and I'm going to jump the gun a little bit here. We see 2 gateways and a gas, so this is actually something that I think you'll be surprised to see, TotalBiscuit.
Yeah, it's
I was
unusual,
in the exact same boat as you, except the Adept got 30 more just health and a little bit faster damage, and that has made a world of a difference.
Really?
Now, I agree with you. It's not great in the mid-game, because once you get, stimmed Marines, Marauders, and Medevacs, they go down like anything else. But in the early game, if you can catch an opponent that's going up to a real high econ build, or they're doing like very specific things like Widowmine drops or Cyclones, 5, 6, 7, and more Adepts, which is now being scouted, by the way, are actually super potent and powerful, and it's crazy. And just one final note, too, I so agree with everything you said. That said, this last patch did go a long way in making Protoss much more viable in Legacy of the Void. Really toning down the warp-in time has made a world of a difference. It's a huge difference.
Yeah, the design philosophy for that seemed to be that, look, warp-ins since the start of Starcraft 2 have basically negated the defender's advantage, and a lot of people view that as a problem. And we are seeing that double Adept opening here from Queenie, which, as you said, is scouted. I wonder if Supernova's had time to learn what that build is, though. Whoa, engineering block. Nice little play there. He's certainly going to... Actually, he might not see the Adept. It looks like Queenie's just going to try and drive the SCV off anyway, but... I guess he's going to have to see the Adepts, because otherwise that expansion's never going to happen. There we go, so he now sees it. But has Supernova had time to adapt to the Adept, is the question.
I see what you did there. The dad jokes start. I do like it. I will say that we're... Like, even if he hasn't had time to deal with this and see it, already the eBay block is throwing her build for a loop. Notice how there's no more Adepts coming out. So my original analysis of like, oh, this is going to be a hardcore rush is kind of out the window. There's 2 more coming, but the timing of this is horrific at this point in time. We're going to see a bunker. He's already going up to factory. He has the reactor, so he should have the tools necessary to hold this off. And even if he somehow takes some damage, Look at the damage done by just a frickin' eBay being started where it was.
Love it. I think the eBay block is a dirty, dirty move, and as a Terran, I fully approve of it. Although I'm considering switching to Zerg, considering how interesting they are in Legacy of the Void. So I might be the person that claims that anyone that does this is a dishonorable cur in future. But right now, I approve of it. You know, I'll give my Terran brother props there. But as we said on paper, this is a difficult matchup for Queenie, to say the least. That Adept is going to die, unfortunately, without really getting much done. And it was only one Adept, of course, but they're not exactly cheap. So it's so hard for Queenie here to beat someone of Supernova's caliber. And it looks like Queenie's not even going to attempt to expand. This is going to be a one-base all-in from this point, and that's probably the best thing she can do.
It's even worse than that, though, TotalBiscuit. She is going to try to expand.
Oh, she is?
She has
Wow.
1,000 minerals saved up. And
oh, good lord.
Again, I love a good underdog story, and I'm rooting for her, but the deficit is growing, and I'll tell you what, it's kind of like, there's no Chrono Boost being used. She's going Stargate as well. Stargate's always nice, especially with the Oracle. It has a lot more longevity to it now with its ability to drop mines. But that too's going to be scouted here in a second. And Supernova's a savvy, classy player. Good block there.
That was nice. That was a
really
lovely
nice
move there. Look at how fast the Adepts kill Hellions. Like, that's something I didn't realize before.
Yeah. They're a lot better. You're going to be surprised what you see with them. People are doing Immortal Adept builds as well against Zerg.
Yeah, makes sense.
They're very strong, and it's actually to the point where if you don't go Roaches, Adepts can just wreck the early game PvZ. So we'll see. And they actually have an upgrade for the mid game too, where they get plus 50 more shield. Does that make them a staple of the mid game? Maybe, maybe not. It's a little bit early on to see, but for right now, no. This cannon's going to finish in, it looks like just the nick of time for detection, but unfortunately, oh, good pull here. Nice move by her.
All right, well, she's looking pretty good up to this point. Oh, God, she lost the Oracle to that, though. That sucks. I mean, that's an expensive loss. But she didn't lose her economy. And maybe that was a bit of an overpull there, I suppose, but it doesn't really matter one way or the other. And hell, you know, you could say it's a mineral preservation tactic, considering you mine out faster in the main these days.
Absolutely right. There could be that analysis.
Look at it in a positive light, right?
That's right. Turning a frown upside down. I'm a big fan of that. So going back to a point we were talking about a little bit earlier, I think the big problem for this kind of matchup is, like, Queenie knows she's behind. She knows she has to do some pretty incredible stuff to get back into this game and possibly topple a legend like Supernova.
Yep.
But the second her original idea gets derailed by that eBay, you can kind of see the wagons fall off the cart. Like the expansions thrown in, 3 Gateway Stargate, which of course then ends up being nothing. She's forgetting things that if you watch her stream, she absolutely does. She's a better player than what we're seeing. But that's the fun, but also the terror of playing on a bigger stage. Like,
yeah, sure.
Against a better opponent with things on the line, like your team backing you and people watching, it's really hard to play in these circumstances. So it's cool that she's here, but we're kind of seeing the effects of what happens when a guy who's sat on the biggest stages like Supernova starts to throw you for a loop.
Yeah, I think that really is the difference between a top-tier competitive player and someone that is good, like GM level good, but isn't really used to playing on the competitive stage as much. You see that one player can adapt quite easily when a spanner is thrown in the works, and the other player looks good until the build is disrupted, and then starts to, as you said, the wheels fall off the wagon, starts to get a bit shaky. There's 5 Reapers now coming in, so he's actually going to use those, assuming he even needs to. I mean, that down goes the Mothership Core, but at least the Phononova charge was put in beforehand. There's actually being a lot of Reapers added into the force. You might think, well, why on earth is he doing that? Well, that's because Reapers now have these grenades, which can be used, and he's building 7 Reapers at a time. This actually looks more like a troll build than anything else here. Like, this is, I think Supernova's having a little bit of fun by the looks of it, but those grenades are going to be interesting to watch.
He's pulled far enough ahead that he feels comfortable just trying to kind of have fun with some of the new units, and I'll tell you what, if you haven't yet, TotalBiscuit, treat yourself. The Grenade Reapers are actually super freaking fun. They are really fun.
I have not seen them as of yet. Force field's going down. Decent split there. And Queenie is driving this back, although it's a little bit risky, of course, to go out as far as she has, and it looks like she is a little bit outnumbered. Oh, there goes the grenade, which actually ends up hitting the Marauder more than anything else. Another grenade pops that Adept up in the air, and
it has friendly
there's the
fire,
pickoff.
too, by the way.
It does, yeah.
Just kind of funny. There's the grenade. Just kind of splatters him. It does little damage. It's really more of a zoning thing. I like it in the early game. We can see here it's not having super big effect. in the fight itself, and that's what Supernova's doing. He's experimenting. But I do want to say I like seeing the Adept added to this composition. I've been hearing about this and how in the mid game they actually do hold their own fairly well. Of course, in the late game they're not a replacement for AoE that you need like Storm and Colossus possibly, but a little bit of light harass here outside the third, which gets put down hard. Having that range is kind of a big deal because that's one of the big problems for Protoss against Terran is if you charge forward with your charge lots, they're very inexpensive and they're fairly hardy and do damage, but they're running into the clutches of ranged Marines and Marauders, and they a lot of times die before they get in there. But with Adepts, there's some range attack there too.
That is very true, and Adepts, as we said, do seem to cut their way quite nicely, and that's a good set of force fields, actually. She kills quite a few Reapers and drives them away. Adepts do cut through Reapers pretty quickly. They deal with the light units very well, but that is still a lot of Reapers, and unfortunately they are now heading into the main base, and they're going to do some damage. There goes the grenades just throwing workers everywhere. They don't really... It's not really effective otherwise, but it is kind of funny. You've got to admit, oh, lovely... Almost blocked them all in there. Like, if she somehow managed to get a force field on the high ground, that would have been incredible. She's still picking off a lot of Reapers, though. We are talking about a 3-base Terran here. Like, this looks good, but Queenie is on the defensive. If Queenie can somehow actually manage to establish that third and defend it, then she might actually be in a pretty good spot. But that's the risk, isn't it? It's like, can she manage to establish that third base and keep it held?
Exactly. If she can. I mean, there's actually a point in time here where it's like, okay, Supernova, you're playing with your food a little bit, but a couple of
3 workers killed, probably four. 3 workers killed there by that Zealot run by. I like the fact that Queenie's harassing here. She did use Adepts earlier. I mean, she's actually killed 11 workers to 6. Which is not enough to catch up, but it's good harass, and she's not investing a huge amount in it, which I really like. And now she's going to push across the map. Will this be a mistake? She does have a smaller army, but it's a nice tech-heavy army, you notice.
It's a very tech-heavy army. She has charge finishing right now. +2 armor is about to finish. Supernova has really piss-poor upgrades, by the way. He's about to have +1 armor finish for himself as well. Good fight here. Force field zoning out the lower half,
really
but
nice.
I do think it's too much. And there's not much of an answer for the medevacs. That's the big problem for her. If she was able to blink under, pick them off, feedback, that kind of thing, maybe, but she just was never in a place to afford that, and this fight's just spiraling out of control for her. Most of her army is sentries. There's just no DPS there. Yeah,
which is a bit of a problem. The Immortal Shield is now up, and it's ripping its way through these units, but she lost the whole army in the process, and what would have made more sense here is to continue that harassment, and she's actually done that. She killed a few more units with the Adepts, and she's going to kill a few more. The bounce is gone now, isn't it? Did they take the bounce feature out from the Adept?
I believe they did.
Yeah, it's a bit of a shame, because she could have gutted that mineral line with that.
Yeah, they might have taken away, but if you click on the Twilight Council, there's the shield upgrade. It's +50 shield, which is a huge increase.
Yeah.
Gigantic, so it makes them a lot more harder. She doesn't even have that upgrade. You can see how they're actually already holding their own. So certainly there is some experimentation to be done with those units.
Yeah, and speaking of experimentation, that's really what Mr. Root Supernova is doing right now. And to be honest, he's about to roll over for the victory, which is unfortunate. I think if she'd stayed defensive on 3 bases, she would have had a better shot. But I think now she's going to lose that third, and there's really nothing that can be done about it. And that will be the game. Decent performance, though, I've got to say. As you said, I think Supernova was playing with his food a bit.
Considering how bad the beginning of this game was for her, to make it a bit of a fight, to show us the Adept, and to really kind of go back and forth there until that final battle, I think that's something that you can take to the bank and be fairly okay with. Again, it's Supernova, guys, and I guess lately he hasn't been super relevant is like a too harsh of a word, but I guess like he hasn't been doing the amazing performances he has in the past. He's still a world-class Terran. He is amazing. And Queenie is a fantastic community member, and she's getting better, as you can see, but is she ready to take out Supernova? Clearly not.
Well, it's a shame that you ran it as Supernova, isn't it? Because I think it was maybe even a bit unexpected to say, yeah, we're going to use one of our strongest players on the Legacy of the Void map.
Yeah.
You know, as opposed to, say, one of our weaker players and just put them on there, maybe one of our Academy players that Queenie would have had a better shot against, but it's Supernova. You know, I don't think anyone really expected Queenie to win that. I don't think it's an insult to say that by any means.
No.
I think it's totally fair. You know, she put on a decent showing. She had some good engagements. I definitely saw some promise there. And it's certainly a shame that there was disruption with the build. Because those Adepts do quite a bit. I think if she grabbed those shield upgrades and she hadn't rolled out like she did, then maybe she would have been able to take that fight.
Yep. And she was already at Templar Tech. I mean, you had a couple of storms in there as well. Supernova could have... he could have played with his food just a little bit too much and then felt the recourse of that. But again, I think it was a decent showing, nice smash, and there's some strategy to this as well. Not everyone right now is playing Legacy of the Void. We have DreamHack going on right now, WCS going on. Like, there's a lot of reason for these pros to focus on Heart of the Swarm. So with her playing so much of it, perhaps they were going to get a more favorable matchup, and there's a little bit of metagaming going on there. And instead, she got Supernova for reasons we don't know, but it was a nice gambit from Team mYinsanity.
Yeah, I think that rolling the dice on the Legacy of the Void match was reasonable, and I think that, yeah, Cole, they lost, you know, it was a natural 20, let's be frank. You know, it was it was unfortunate that the dice roll ended up that way with Supernova showing up in Legacy of the Void, which I think was unexpected for most people. But so be it, you know, good performance by her. You know, I'm happy that I hope she will play more, I really do. And I hope that she gets a little bit less of a mismatch next time, because she's obviously got potential. And especially in Legacy of the Void, I mean, I'd like it to see her maybe become the staple player for the Legacy of the Void beta. I mean, even with Protoss, who's currently, at least in my opinion, the weakest race, she put on a good enough showing there against the top-tier Terran, who was admittedly messing around a bit. But, hey, it's fun for the viewers, nonetheless, so hey. All right, well, next match we got coming up is, again, a change. As we said, there's been a lot of... what? Oh, God. It looks like they've changed stuff again. All right, okay, I'm going to have to go talk to them, because apparently there's been a bunch of schedule changes, but mYinsanity didn't bother to actually tell me. So we'll be right back after the break with more SHOUTCraft Clan Wars. What the match is, couldn't tell you. Well, it's a mystery box.
It's one of two. It's one of two, probably.
It's a mystery box. We'll be right back. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Peninsula. Yeah, this is the map we're doing now. We're kind of making this up as we go along. There was a bunch of last-minute changes. People had to be other places, so just bear with us, you know, as we go through this. It's just going to be made even more confusing by the fact that we have someone called Kiwi Kaki in the game, who is in fact not Kiwi Kaki. It's actually Blisk. So yeah.
What?
I don't even know.
That isn't Kiwi Kaki?
It's not Kiwi Kaki, no.
God dang it.
So disappointing. Apparently he is coming back, though, so I've been told. He's actually going to be playing at some point. I just don't know when.
Katz actually tweeted a picture and talked about what you have to deal with during these Clan Wars, too. Katz is on the name Idra on NA as well. Oh, you do lead a charmed life, John.
I think I need to start making rules against this stuff. It's starting to get a little bit silly. All right, folks, here to the northeast position in the red trunks playing Terran. It's Root Kel'Thuzad, as we like to call him. It's not even that hard a name to pronounce. I just like Kel'Thuzad. I think that's a better name. So we'll credit.
It's Cazer, right?
Yes, Cazer. We'll credit Naniwa for calling him Kel'Thuzad. That's become a thing. It's going to stick now, whether Cazer likes it or not. Versus his opponent, it's not Kiwi Kaki to the southwest position. It's actually Blisk in the green trunks playing Protoss for Team mYinsanity, who are currently down one game, but look at this. Blisk practiced the map and realizes you can mineral walk through that little egg in the center there on Peninsula. He's going to do it twice, and it looks like we're going to see some proxy nonsense, perhaps. Maybe.
Well, he's going to a place actually. Okay, yeah. So not proxy gates in the base per se, but
proxy
certainly
Stargate,
a
maybe?
very fast Oracle, exactly. Which is of the proxies, like the speed for which it's going to hit is going to be very shocking. But Terrans are so traumatized and used to being proxy oracled that I almost wonder if of the proxies that could have happened here, this one is going to be the least shocking. Because I look at the base of Callister's, you know, you're not going to wall in here. You are going to fast expand. Like we can see, he's going to drop the CC on the low ground.
Absolutely.
There would have been potential for some super dangerous, you know, proxy gateways. He's actually building a Reaper, which, if I'm not mistaken, cannot reach his opponent's base, right?
It can. It's just got to go all the way around the edge. This is actually...
Okay.
Actually, no. Yes, no, maybe.
Well, we're about to find out.
With a Reaper, I'm not 100% certain. I think that it gets blocked off by rocks. But we're about to find out. He is making his way around the right side of the map.
You know what?
Here.
There's that little lip of
I think
cliff.
there's a little area he can do it in.
Yeah, I think it can hop up that.
Yep. He just ran right past the Tauren Marine there in the corner. Yeah, there's just that tiny little area that a Reaper can get, and I'm pretty sure that was deliberately designed there, because denying Reaper scouting entirely would be a pretty ridiculous nerf to the Terran. And hey, surprise, surprise, Blisk eats one, and might even eat a second one here as this cazer Reaper gets very aggressive. All right, well, he trades the Reaper for limited scouting information, though.
Yes.
Like, he didn't actually see that much.
Well said, and I fully agree, actually. Getting 2 probes is nice, but it did not go into the base. And, of course, it never would have seen these gateways for the full cheese that is going to come. But more importantly, it didn't see if there is any tech inside that base, because it's not unreasonable to have both gases at this time. 3 probes in each is a little bit speculative, but this Oracle's going to hit, and as you can see, there's 2 Marines.
Yeah, nothing to stop it. Not yet. He's building a blind engineering bay, which I think is fair considering that he didn't get any scouting information. But this is the good old, hey, how many SCVs will we sacrifice to build a missile turret game? Which is currently 7, 8, and the damage is pretty severe. That's 9. And he misfires there, actually, which means he can't take out all the Marines. Bit of a shame. He also has burned out all of his energy, but he got 9 SCVs. Not a bad start. And as you mentioned, there's 2 more gateways and a pylon right next to the natural. This is going to get a bit brutal pretty quickly.
If there were Widow Mines coming out or something like that, I would say there's some form of a chance for cazer, but as it is, even with this probe going forward being like, hey, I'm here, it's going to tip off the Terran. He's going to be like, wait a second, why the hell is there a probe here?
He's immediately
it's just not going to be enough.
Widow Mines. No, it's not. Like, if the Widow Mines get up, and they eventually will, but there's a second Oracle now, which means the Marines are dead. And it's going to involve some miraculous Widow Mine hits, assuming they even get to bury themselves before they get obliterated. Nice cheese here by Blisk. Really nice moves. He's obviously practiced the map, and he understands that, Protoss have something of a unique edge on this map that we haven't seen people fully exploit until this game, where it's like, you can get a probe through the little wall there, and you can start proxying things. So as a Terran or a Zerg player, you've got to be very alert for that. We've seen Zerg exploit it in different ways as well. And there's a way for every race to do it. Like, for instance, you get a very early Marauder out, you can actually kill that egg faster than any other race in the game. So that's something to consider there as well. But right now, it looks like the Protoss player is fully exploiting his ability to screw with the Terran in a big way.
Well, it's worth mentioning, too, that yes, you can mineral walk the probe through there, and that's, of course, unique to Protoss in the sense that then they have pylons of which to warp in on.
Yes.
But I do want to go back to cazer's decision to be aggressive with that Reaper before scouting. If he sees an empty base, no natural, he knows it's a proxy all-in. He lifts his natural at 0 cost, well, 0 harm, I would say, double bunkers, and gets Medevac Marine out. Now, it's not ideal for Terran, but they're ahead. Protoss has a very tough time on one base, especially versus a Terran that has double mules. So I do feel like, yes, there is a situation where the Protoss can take advantage of that, but a more diligent Terran also has answers. It's not like this map's like, well, you're going to see Protoss versus Protoss here forever because it's so broken for Protoss.
Yeah, in fact, this actually might be the first time that we've seen Protoss on this map. Usually we see quite a lot of Zerg on this map. We've seen a bit of Terran, but it's definitely not the Protoss-favored map that people would make out. Oh, a couple of Oracles going down there, but I think, honestly, Blisk just knows that he's willing to sacrifice that at this point. There we go. He's as cold as ice. He's willing to sacrifice. There's the GG. And a nice little pickup there for mYinsanity. Pretty quick gamer here on Peninsula. Nicely planned out little build, and like you said, all comes down to cazer's, I mean, I guess you could call it greed, really. Trying to kill off too many probes and not being so concerned about scouting. And yeah, I mean, if he'd seen the entire base, he would have been suspicious. Like, hang on a minute, you're missing a pylon, you're missing tech, you don't have a natural. Something is up. Let's go try and find out what it is.
Something is going on, and I think that is the moment we trace it back to. And this is actually a pretty important moment. You know, it was last time I commented with you, one of the previous matches. Blisk is a very good micro-oriented, kind of cheesy Protoss, very build-oriented. We saw him face a Korean last time, and he did not succeed, but it was a good game. Here, he's faced up against cazer, which is foreigner versus foreigner, but it's worth mentioning cazer has recently done very well in WCS. He's really up and coming, and Cats has a talent and an eye for up and coming players, and this is actually a pretty big bullet dodged. I feel like cazer, perhaps unbeknownst to a lot of people, is the favorite of this matchup. He's the more accomplished player and perhaps the higher ability, but that's what's so nice about organized matches like this, and one of the dangers of best of one. Maybe you're the inferior player, but if you execute a build better than your opponent and it's a timing attack, you can win that game and thus give a point to your team on the board there.
Yeah, I mean, that's Team Leagues in a nutshell, isn't it? It's about preparing builds, it's about sniping opponents, and that was a nice build there by Blisk, and cazer fell right into it. And that's the nature of a Pro League format like this. That's what you can expect. All right. Well, we're going to go on to the next map, which is going to be Kliskarda, which is actually a map I'm trying to catch up on because we didn't see Kliskarda really within the first month. We're now seeing it. It's a pretty fun map. And we've got igers taking on zervas, which is, again, a change to the roster. Completely ignore the roster that's in the Team Liquid thread. It's wrong.
It's just a thought. It's just
a speculation. It's a guideline. You know?
It's basically what could have happened. You know, it doesn't have to be what is happening. You know, if we keep going at this pace, by the way, TotalBiscuit, we're going to actually finish a clan war inside the downtime of a dream hack in between matches, which would be a feat in and of itself.
Well, I heard that the 5 community streams were casting the same match at one point, whereas a bunch of other matches were going uncasted, so I think we serve a purpose here. Let's just put it that way. You know, we're a good little half-time show, I suppose.
Yes,
so
exactly.
Let's do that. And when we come back after the break, it will be igers, the mighty dwarf Terran, taking on zervas. The TVZ on Kliskarda. Don't go anywhere. Ladies and gentlemen, god damn it, every time, whenever I switch between Legacy of the Void, I always mess this up. Alright, it's all sorted, there we go. Okay, wonderful. Welcome to Kliskarda, I'm losing my mind. To the southeast position in the red trunks, playing Terran, it's Root igers. Versus his opponent, the northwest position in the pink trunks, playing Zerg. It is not, in fact, mYinsanity Fab, because again, they want to confuse the hell out of me. It is mYinsanity Zervas.
Do you think Fab is like short for fabulous?
I'd say so. Why not?
Good. I hope so. I hope that's what it is.
He's got a good color for it, absolutely. You know?
Yeah.
Looks styling. I think I personally like the pink. It's very good.
It is. It's bold. People are reclaiming it.
Okay,
looking at the map, large natural area, which doesn't in and of itself pose a problem. It just kind of, as I look at this, in particular in the ZVP matchup, of course, which I'm horrendously biased towards, I think there's a lot of run-by potential, not problems, but that's just what the map offers. But here we have a ZVT, so I think of that as well. Anytime I think of run-bys, I think of course, the Great Korean Zerg Life. I'm not entirely familiar with, what's his name?
Zervas.
Zervas. Do you know anything about Zervas?
Yeah, he ran in the first clan war, actually, and he had a pretty good success rate. I can't really... I wouldn't say there's anything in particular that's distinctive about his style, but he's rock solid and he prepares well, which is really what you need to win Clan Wars. He was picking up quite a few wins for mYinsanity in the first season of this event, so I would say that he's got a good shot against igers. We should also point out, by the way, that neither player has really had a lot of prep time. This was a last-minute change that was agreed by both players, so igers was actually practicing against Arium, and, of course, Zervas was not practicing against anybody because he wasn't listed. So this is going to be a fly-by-the-seat-of-the-pants match, which I think is fine because this is not one of the more crazier maps. The one thing you probably noticed that's a bit unusual and has caught players off guard in the past is this backrock entrance to the natural. It's pretty risky. If you don't properly cover that, you can get caught completely off guard.
Yeah, and we're seeing that even in ladder maps. So as far as, like you said, as far as features go for the potential in these map pools, it's no gigantic cannon of death controlled by a Zergling. It's just something to be aware of, and like you said, it can catch you off guard if you're completely unprepared. I do have to say, though, again, we have, not even a mismatch is the wrong way to say it, but igaz has been doing very well in WCS. He is also one of the kind of up-and-coming foreign Terrans, as few and far between as that population is.
Yeah, that's a rare breed, isn't it?
Doesn't happen very often for
very
whatever
rare
reason.
Pokemon.
But he's good. He's legitimately good. And the last time we saw Team Root, he bopped somebody in a 2 versus 2.
He did.
Or actually, excuse me. Did he also play for Team Who? Or no, he was...
Yes, he played for Team Who as well. Basically, he plays on both teams. That's fine because Clan Wars can do whatever the hell it likes. Thank you very much. So, We really wanted Aussie representation, and the problem is there's no Aussie team large enough to field the full roster, so we basically said, look, make a clan. Let's go. And,
totally fine.
yeah, igers plays for them too. And yeah, Clan Who put on a great showing last time, actually. So it's cool to see igers being a big part of that as well.
Yes. You would have to. If you're going to have an Australian team and you're going to miss out on arguably your best, if not your best, and certainly top 3 player, that would be just silly. So it's nice to see him there. But he looked beastie, is the point I'm trying to make. He's got very strong macro play. Of course, he's no slouch micro-wise, but I would say once he gets up and going around the 8 or 9 and plus minute mark, you're going to see just a troop of troops marching across the field. It's going to be very difficult to hold off. Now, of course, for Zerg, that was a thing of nightmares in like 2013-14 era, the parade push time.
Parade push, yeah.
Right now, they're a little bit more handy about it. They've gotten a lot better. We see double Evo chamber, 3 hatch openings, a lot more common map control styles. Whether or not, when you say solid, that's what I think. So we'll have to see if I almost called him Fab, but Zervas is going to bust that out for us.
Yeah, I would think so. I'd say these players are pretty evenly matched. We should, of course, bear in mind this is on NA, so Zervas has a slight ping disadvantage, and igers, I believe, is currently in the States, so rather than in Australia.
If he is, then he's good. If he's Australian, he has a ping disadvantage everywhere.
Absolutely.
Because he's Australian.
Yeah, we always have the Australians on the Korean server. I usually actually pick the Australians versus the Koreans for that reason, because then at least they've got a reasonable chance on the ping there, but yeah, it must... In one way, it sucks to be Australian, but in another way, you do get better ping to Korea than really any other region outside of, Korea. So it's not terrible. It's actually, I think, one of the reasons why we see some pretty awesome Australian players pop up from time to time.
I 100% agree. The disadvantage is their ability to show off that skill.
Yeah, it's expensive to get to an event.
It's expensive to get to an event, but even playing online ones, like you said, they're never going to favor Australia. They're never going to be like, all right, unless you play a Korean, then you're playing the Korean server, and great, you have good ping, but now you're playing the best players on planet Earth, so it's like...
Yeah, and they have even better ping.
It's like, oh, God.
So that's a bit of a nightmare there. But it's cool that they're willing to take it on. All right, nice shot, actually, with the Hellions there. And you can see that the Zerg player is quite desperately trying to collapse these double rock towers. They're both linked together, meaning that if these rock towers do collapse, then it will cover the third quite nicely. But until that happens, this third is vulnerable to harassment. igers is trying to get everything done.
For a second, I thought the rocks were going to crash down on
That would be great. I really kind of hope that happens, although it would be quite sad for igers, and I don't think it's gonna. He's not gonna let that happen. That would be ridiculous.
Flirting with it, yeah. He's looking for creep tumors. Any kind of stray creep tumor gets placed too far forward, get picked off. And that, again, we're seeing as you said, very solid opening for both players. It's a lot more Hellions here. And I'm looking up there. Did an army already finish, or did he not make one? No, he did not. So just more Hellions than usual. But he is being aided by a Banshee here. But the amount of queens that Zervas has at his disposal at the front, unless he loses one, it's getting low at health. It does die. Good attack by the Zerglings here, and actually it's going to die, but at the cost... At what cost, TotalBiscuit? The question every caster has to ask themselves.
Yeah, well, the cost specifically was a couple of Hellions. But it did allow the Banshee to get into the base and get 4 kills because the queens were out of position. And there is a distinct lack of detection, actually. The lair's quite late for Zervas, I noticed. So usually you'd see an Overseer around this timing, but I think perhaps a lot of the harassment that's been going on has put Zervas a bit on edge, and it's maybe delayed that lair. So the Cloak Banshee gets more done than it really had any right to.
It did, but if you look at it, it's got 7 kills, which are drones, but the cost...
Oh, no, he isn't transfused.
The reason those 7 drones died was because of how greedy the opening was from Zanzer. If you look, he's got Zanzer. It's going to be... anyways... Fab.
Yep, he's now Zanster. Enjoy.
He's got all the gases. And yes, the lair was late, Spire just now, but that's kind of the new meta of Zerg. They'd rather start 2-2 and have Ling Baneling control and later mutas, as opposed to the earlier mutas, because all the earlier mutas are going to do is still run into a missile turret and Marines.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter the time you come out. The mutas themselves force the missile turrets and keep drops, kind of edgy and worried about them. But they're much more defensive than it used to be back in the Brood War days, where mutas were all-out offense.
Yeah, that's very, very true indeed. And there's just this critical mass of Mutalisks that you can get to that will overwhelm a missile turret without really losing a muta. And if you do push it out early, the most you're ever going to have is really 9, and that's if you're sacrificing a lot to get that. And you will probably lose a Mutalisk, or at least have to micro awkwardly, and if there's Marines around, then you end up losing more, and that's a lot of gas to invest in a bit of a risk there. So I think you're right, and frankly, Zervas is doing fine. Yeah, he's lost 16 workers, but he is kind of keeping up. I'm a bit concerned because this third base for igers is fully functional, and igers is doing his usual barracks explosion after that. He's just like, hey, yeah, I've got to build another factory. So, which is nice to see, actually. Adding a second factory into the mix is not that usual. So we might see more Widow Mines come out, which would be great against Ling Baneling Muta. So it's like igers is almost playing a heart style here. And it could work very, very well. He's already pushing towards the front, towards the edge of the creep with these mines.
This is the scary part about igers that I talked about earlier. I mean, he's not really missing a beat. His money's not skyrocketing, as you said. The explosion of production, the third is up and going. Now, critically notice, he's cut the corner of there are no missile turrets back at home. So at first glance, you say, well, mutas can just run amok. Yes, they can. But can the mutas afford the time to get across the map and over there? That's exactly why igers is here at the edge of creep pressuring. He wants to keep the Zerg on his back foot and at home defending. There's even a drop inside the main. That does get put down by the mutas. Very nice defense there.
Yep. There's a couple of Banshees, in fact, from that, and it did get cleaned up.
Banshees, okay.
Yep, it was a nice little two-pronged attack by igers. He was trying to distract both casters and the other player, and it worked pretty well. And some damage was done. I think a queen fell there. Some banelings were picked off, but so far, igers is being kept back. But I'm a bit concerned, of course, about the presence of Hellbats and Widow Mines in this composition. There's maybe not quite enough to do the job, because that's a lot of Banelings. But that engagement there from Zervas, oh, God. I mean, that's a lot of Banelings traded for not a lot of anything. That was over 20 Banes that went down.
And he loses the fourth. I think if he saves the fourth from there, you could almost justify the cost, but he does not. He loses all the Banelings. There's none in production until now. He actually might just die right this second. If not, critical damage is being done. The scan from igers assures him that he's going to push back this creep, fighting the war of attrition. But 3-base Zerg versus 3-base Terran, not a place you want to be. He does counterattack with Zerglings. He does, I would say, minimal damage. He set fire to a reactor. He killed a few SCVs. That's nice.
Yeah.
Again, I kind of
trace
back to the fourth base,
which is pretty cool. So, I mean, I'll give him credit for that, but it's not really enough to compensate for what he just lost, as you said.
Exactly.
Like, it looks kind of even, but if it looks kind of even at TVZ, that means the Zerg's behind. So, you know, it's 3-base on the 3-base. Yeah, there's a slight worker advantage, but he really needs that fourth base. He needs the extra lava, especially if you're playing Ling Baneling. You need as much lava as you can get.
Yep. And the separation is about to become apparent. 2-2 just finished for the Terran to put him on par with the Zerg, but 3-3 is triggered up, and that's the critical one that Zerg has such a tough time getting to. You need Hive for your 3-3 upgrades, and in order to have a Hive, you have to have an Infestation Pit. The costs start racking up is the point being, and a lot of Zergs don't get to Hive at this stage of the game until the 20-plus minute mark, unless things are going amazingly well their way, like they're just blowing up armies, but of course it has not been happening here.
No.
He's going to retry to take the top fourth. Honestly, you have to almost double expand at this point in time to make up the difference, and he's not doing that. So again, I see a strong favor for igers here.
Yeah, igers also is picking off bits of the army. That was a nice little engagement, though. We saw 2 Widow Mines go down for the cost of 2 Zerglings, which is good. And we need to see a little bit more of that. We see Zervas setting up kind of a run-by, but simultaneously the back rocks were never taken down, so those Lings are going to take forever to do that. That fourth is forfeit at this point. The Lings aren't responding in time, so unless igers decides to focus on the Queen, which he actually is, surprisingly enough. So it looks like that base is going to live, and there's a transfuse just to make sure, and that was actually a nice pick-off there by Zervas. He doesn't lose any mutas. He picks off the medevac as well. igers is knocking on these rocks. He wants to take that third, and he's got a big army to do it.
Yeah, he's going to push in here. A lot of Banelings are there, and the Widow Mine count is low. Go back to that comment about the 2 Lings killing 2 mines. If all these Banelings can connect, that'd be great, but igers doing such a good job of separating out his units. The Marauders took a bunch of shots there, but who cares? Now we got some nice control from Zansfer. He's going to move forward and pick off the Marauders so that they don't tank all the damage. The 4th base is dead. That's just gone off the face of the earth. And this 3rd base is in danger, loses a gas, not a big deal, but again, he's just everywhere, is igers. He's going to get this 4th, which means the Zerg player's back down to 3. The main and natural are thinning out. I mean, time is of the essence.
Yeah, I mean, more drones were killed as well, which is not good. And the worst thing about this is that igers is taking super favorable trades against Banelings. And igers can afford to do that, whereas the Zerg player cannot. And yeah, okay, that army gets wiped out, but that was actually not that bad. I mean, he did lose quite a lot, considering. But you've got to bear in mind that the 4th base went down, as you said. The natural is starting to mine out. The main is already beginning to mine out as well. And, I mean, if igers continues to send these small attack forces and gets cleaned up nicely, then Zervas is going to be able to bring this back. But
Yeah.
I think it's like a couple more fights like this, and zervas may be back in it, actually. I think maybe igers is biting off a little bit more than he can chew.
Well, a little bit of a missed opportunity here. Well, okay. He's just going to land right there. If he can get these medevacs, it's nice.
He should be able to. Yeah.
All these trades have been good for Igers, except for that secondary fight we had kind of dead smack in the middle of the map where, like, 5 medevacs died for free, basically. And it's the medevacs that you look to. I mean, there's not a huge number of Widow Mines here. And if there's no medevacs and Igers fights on creep, Banelings can wreck an army. Like, you know, 8 Banelings for a fraction of the cost can kill a whole wave of Terran. Igers is moving up to take a 4th. That needs to get denied, but it's still stacked against him, the Zerg, but a couple of fights like that in a low medevac count, and all of a sudden, Igers could be in more danger than he'd ever want to be.
Yeah, he's not entirely dead, but I'm still really concerned about this inability to take a 4th base here by the Zerg player. That's going to burn the Zerg out. And yeah, okay, Igers has taken a few unfavorable trades, just as I was saying that, but then he takes a good one right there, with the Marauders absorbing most of the damage.
And the 4th is up and opt. I mean, it's got 3 missile turrets, so it's nigh invincible against Mutalisk. It's about to be a planetary fortress, and this low econ Zerg just simply can't spare the resources to go deal with it.
No.
And that's what's so... I find it fun about TVZ, but it must be frustrating for whoever's on the worst side of this. But it's a game of attrition. Like, things are just dying this entire time, right and left. And it's not a question... Like, it's so different for Protoss, because if you lose your army as a Protoss, you're essentially dead. But as Terran and Zerg, they're like, what? I've lost 20 armies. The game goes on.
I love this mine placement by igers. There's no way in a million years a drone is getting past that. I mean, even if it does somehow mysteriously get past these mines, which are about to kill the drone, it's not going to get past the one that's placed right on the natural. So it's a consistent expansion denying that's winning igers this game at this point, and the Zerg is starting to bleed out heavily. I mean, we've got the Terran maxed again, and I think this is going to be the time, frankly. And yeah, some army gets cleaned up in the center, but it cost a bunch of Banelings to do it, and igers doesn't care. He's on 4 bases, like you pointed out. He picks off the 3rd as well. I think we're going to see a very dead Zerg very soon.
We are seeing a dead Zerg. He's just kind of, he's fighting it out, wants to represent his team very well. A very clean, well-played game from igers. There's the GG. And I do like the map, too. You always have to mention that. At least I feel like I do, because these are still new maps to me. And it played out really nicely. A very well-balanced map, very cool. I think if we could have seen the Zerg player taking a 4th base, and it's not like this map restricts him from that, it's just the same age-old conflict for TVZ, and that is, I'm going to parade push right outside the door of your 4th and just deny it. The 3rd was, like, threatened a couple times, but almost half-heartedly. Like, igers did it when he had a huge advantage. Otherwise, it was all about that 4th base, and that's where he won the game.
Alright, we're going to be sorting out the next game momentarily, folks. You are currently watching SHOUTCraft Clan Wars. We're going to figure out what that game is. I believe it's the 2v2. Yep, pretty sure it's the 2v2. We're just going to have to decide which server, because we've had to move some servers around as well, so we'll be right back. Currently, Root leads 2 games to 1 in this best of 7. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 2v2, which is not featuring Idra as much as people might hope that it was. No, hate to disappoint you, but for some reason Katz is currently using an account by the name of Idra, I assume because he hates me and wants me to go insane during this particular clan war. Alright, well, here we go. 2v2 time. Currently, we have Root leading 2 games to 1. Apologies, we had to switch back to the old UI because it breaks during the 2v2 because, you know, more problems. Northeast position, we have in the Yellow Trunks playing Zerg. It is Root Cats with his teammate in the red, who we, of course, just saw in action. Root Igers playing Terran. Versus their opponents from mYinsanity to the southwest position. In the purple trunks, we have Winter. No, not that Winter. And his teammate, Zervas, also not known as Fab now, so we could stop calling him Zanster and getting really confused. Oh, man.
About
Ice
time.
Realm. We haven't seen this in a while. It's a fun map.
And it's a classic ZT versus ZP. This is perhaps the most common 2 versus 2 teams. There was an era, of course, where ZZ dominated in Brood War, and it was actually flat out outlawed because it was so dominant. But ZT, I would say, takes the cake as the really classic one. It just gels really nicely. Early game strength. Marines are good at everything. They're just general anti-air. And then, of course, medevacs in StarCraft 2 offer healing capabilities for both sides, which they help that with Protoss as well, but they have shields, so it's not as big of a deal as opposed to biological units like Zerg, where it's just straight up their health. They just get medevacs.
Yes, absolutely true. And we've seen some teams actually start to feed gas to the Terran player so they can build 4 medevacs at a time and do crazy stuff like that, because they can just make a big ball of units and the medevacs can help them out, which is unusual. And roaches getting healed by medevacs is just a nightmare. It's so hard to bloody kill them. It's ridiculous. They're so tough. Alright, well, this map has one unique feature, which is it has a set of gateways, which actually will go up and down every 2 minutes, which changes the attack paths that you can use. Currently, the gateways are down. When the gateways go back up, they block off about half the attack paths in the game. So, that's just something to bear in mind. And as you can probably notice as well, the bases are 1, smiley faces, and 2, there are 3 available mineral patches in the main base, in a shared main base, and then reasonably easy to take expansions, although they're fairly wide open, so defending them can be a bit tricky.
Which is a staple of 2 versus 2. Like, if you're going to expand, it's at the risk of being under attack. We can see that here, Cats is opting for speed lings as opposed to a second hatch, whereas Winter went for the fast hatch first, and it looks like these lings won't get there. I mean, I'm gonna go ahead and make the logical leap here. With the gates up, which they are just now.
They just popped up right now, yeah.
It's going to be hard for them to do anything. And if he doesn't get some damage in with these lings, then that expansion is going to really pay off. And Cats is just adding more lings, now a Baneling Nest as well. So get ready. Aggression is coming.
Yep. So it took a little bit longer for the lings to get there, but one of the most important points about these gates is that the natural is a lot safer while that gate is up, as opposed to when it's down. So half the time, the natural is certainly much more risky because there are 2... I wouldn't say necessarily wide open attack paths. Yeah, sure, you can force field the gated area, but it takes quite a few. And then, of course, when the force field's up, the attack's going to come from one direction. So we're going to see Cats get nice and aggressive early on, and they're really just pouring it on. It's going to be the very standard Ling Hellion rush to try and apply pressure, and we'll see whether or not these guys can hold on to it. If they can, they're going to be in a good economic position going forward.
Exactly right, and you can see they tried for the ramp. They have bigger goals in mind than just the natural. The Queen does get surrounded. It's a pretty big mistake. Nice focus fire getting one of the Banelings, though, before they can ever have an impactful explosion.
Like it.
They get a second one. Hellions, though, contributing so much. The Zerglings of Winter are in such danger if they get close. Yes, the Banelings, of course, are the alpha predators, if you will, but the Hellions aren't too far off from that either. Protoss units melted away, but a Mothership Core is going to come over here, and that's going to be one-way damage. Spinecrawler does finish as well, which means going up this ramp is going to be super hard, but that could forfeit the natural.
I would say that that's probably what's going to happen. The thing is that, I mean, that's not the worst thing ever, considering these guys only have one base each, and now they're finally trying to take one. But they're going to try and hold on. There's a couple of Banelings now moving in, and one gets detonated. The second one cleans most of it up, though. Is this actually going to be a cleanup? Don't let it die! Don't let it die! Winter, get it! Get him! Get him! He holds it just for the time being, and just a couple more shots will take the hatchery out, but it looks like mYinsanity did hold.
Yes. A hell of a hold, too. The final surround there at the outside that force field area, or the ramp gate area, excuse me, was epic, to say the least. And Katz's Gambit has, well, for right now, it's not paid off. His second hatch is going to try to go down. But now there's a huge differential in production. Winter has literally, just
double,
twice as much production available to him. The hatch is low health, though, so there's the risk of going out on the map and then getting counterattacked by a grip of lings destroying it.
And I think he's done that already. He's put one transfuse in. He's building additional queens, which I think is the right call. A bunch of workers are dying here, so I'm trying to find out where. The Oracle. Zervas' Oracle made its way in and killed 12 of igers' workers.
Yeah, it's racked up even 13 kills, and the Queen is the last thing that pushed it off, but Iagaz has been gimped in the hardest of ways. He's going cloaked Banshee, or not cloaked, excuse me, but just Banshee. And this Oracle is going to persist to be a problem. There's no missile turrets. He can actually nigh afford it even. And, okay, no, it is cloaked Banshee. Never mind. There's a cloaked Banshee inside Peace Base Zervas. And he's in trouble because there's no detection available.
This is wild. This is impossible to keep track of. There's all sorts of crazy stuff going on right here. As you can see, the Cloak Banshee is reaping a terrible toll. Just lings flying everywhere, Baneling detonations. Katz's attack seems to have been deflected for the time being, and this base, this hatchery is still up, but that's a lot of Protoss dead. I mean, and as you said, where's the detection? It isn't there. And it's ridiculous, because zervas actually has Phoenixes, but he can't see, so it's not going to help him. There we go. Finally, the detection comes in. The Oracle saves the day, but at what cost? It's down to 10 probes. Zervas has taken a beating.
And there's some fighting going out on the map, but again, just a couple of Hellions with Blings really just changes the dynamic of that fight. Banshee's coming across as well. I guess still with no anti-air in his base, so they need to keep the pressure on Team mYinsanity. But it looks like for right now, they're pseudo-stabilizing, and the Phoenix are going to be a huge problem at this point in time. With detection from those Oracles, all of a sudden, these Banshees seem to be very vulnerable, and they're actually, the Phoenix, excuse me, are across the map terrorizing the economy.
Can he get it? Does he have that? Look, is he going to focus it down? Oh, man, the detection just ran out on the Oracle. That's disastrous, potentially. Igers is now moving in with his Banshee. The Banelings hit the hatchery and kill it. That's now been wiped out. Now the Banshee moves in to try and take on the Zerg, who up to this point has had a pretty good economy, but he's taking damage as well. Igers is also taking damage, though. His economy is gutted because of the Phoenixes. Basically, almost nobody has any money. Like, it's just, this is just, they're just beating the crap out of each other.
I think that the choice to have the Phoenix pick up Harvesters and do their harass was a poor one, because their anti-air ability is just better served at home shutting down this Banshee harass, which has been the only reason Team Root is in this game at all, I would say. I mean, Igaz is doing some work with Hellions. That's really nice. But without the Banshees, there is a flourishing Team mYinsanity economy, I would say, on 3 base. And it's probably more than Root can match for it, but these Banshees have just been amazing.
They really have. They've certainly done the job. And Zervas brings his Oracle back again to do some more damage. But just have a look at the problems that mYinsanity are currently facing. They're currently on 1 base apiece, and Igers has managed to expand, and the Zerg players managed to expand as well. We've got Cats with a base as well. So it's really a turning of the tables. Great engagement there by Igers. Very nice, and the Stalkers managed to drive that away, but mYinsanity's on the ropes now with Igers getting his base up. And yeah, there's been harass, as you pointed out, but it hasn't done enough. Igers has 29 SCVs, Cats has 21 workers versus 13 and 12.
Yeah. And I mean, those numbers right there kind of say the story.
Yeah.
Ooh, critically, that SCV's going to get lifted just before the missile turret finishes. But it will finish, and there's even Widow Mines here now as well. So the time for the Phoenix to be as imposing and threatening to the economy of their opponents is come and gone. We have some Ling Harass jumping into Cat space. Nice positioning on the Queen. Will it be enough? I don't know. In fact, it won't.
Yeah, in fact, that's actually going to be quite a few dead drones. Nice run by here by Winter. He's looking to try and even up the odds, and this is a good move. He's trying to kill all these Queens, because I think he just wants to stop the pressure. Lings get themselves in and are going to kill, actually, no SCVs whatsoever by the looks of it, so that was not so great there. He just didn't quite have enough. But plenty of drones are getting killed here, so Cats' economy is... There's an equalizer coming in here. And there's the lift, takes out the Queen as well. Again, focusing the Queens is nice, because that means Cats can't apply pressure anymore. He doesn't have the lava injects to do it.
No, Cats is getting terrorized right now. He's screaming at his Australian friend like, hey,
help
me out.
Help!
It's him and a Spore Crawler is the only reason he's not just outright dead right now, I would imagine.
He's supply blocked,
I guess... Yeah, he's the Overlord's just, this is not the place for them to be, still at Hatch Tech. And in the midst of this, the economy of these two players has stabilized a little bit, but it is still worth noting that Igaz, so far the heavy lifter of this match,
the powerhouse.
He's been on 2 bases this whole time, just fine, and that's more than either the Zerg or Protoss can boast right now.
The supply block is disgusting. I mean, he was down to potentially 12 only available supply. He's only just about to alleviate it. Cats is, like, for the last minute and a half, has effectively been out of the game. More Banshee harassed there by Igers, though, and again, poor response by Zervas. He's taken so much damage from Banshees already, it's shocking not to just see some form of detection. He's finally got to get it, but not without losing yet more probes that he just cannot afford to lose right now.
Well, that's the thing. They initially took so much damage that he just kind of said, I'm just going to wager that he's not going to keep making Banshees because I have Oracles and I have Phoenix, so in theory, they do 0 damage and just get wrecked, but Igaz has snuck them in each and every time, and it's been more than what they can handle.
Yeah, he's been putting a knife in the Protoss players back over and over and over again, and Zervas has been taking an absolute pounding as a direct result. It's worth noting, of course, Zervas is playing Protoss in 2v2 as opposed to playing Zerg, which is his actual race. Here comes the surround, and a fight is coming in. A couple of Stalkers to back this up. Phoenix is coming around the back to try and again supply block Cats, which I think is not a bad move. There's the lift coming in as well. Bit of a weird fight, though, and it didn't really go in mYinsanity's favor. It seemed like a bit of a desperation play. And yeah, while there isn't an answer to all these Phoenixes, the Phoenixes don't win games. Like, not straight up, anyway.
Well, if he had energy to pick up these Hellions, this fight would heavily go in their favor.
Yep.
And if the Spore Caller dies, which it will, actually, that means there's no anti-air over here at all until the Thor walks in.
Oh, hi.
Pardon me, John. Pardon me. I mentioned there was no anti-air. Well, now there's a Thor. There's a lot of anti-air.
Yeah, and there is no answer to that Thor. You can't lift Thors, I'm
Nope.
afraid. So that's going to be... Of course, he does have maneuverability advantage, so if Zervas keeps microing, he can just get away from the Thor. But let's try and take stock of the situation, because it is wild. Zervas has kind of recovered in terms of his economy, because he got his second base up and he's chrono boosting like a madman. Winter got his second base up as well, so he's recovering. But it's igers' powerhouse economy that currently outnumbers both mYinsanity players. That's the big risk.
Yeah,
but he's got no units. Like, igers basically has no attacking units. That's the weird thing right now.
No, but he's massing Thors. I mean, look at those factories right now. You have 2 queued up, and there's already 2 out.
This is
and
crazy.
They are the representative of his economy. They're slow, they're unwieldy, but they're powerful. Lings surrounding him. Who gives a damn? Phoenix can't pick them up. So, for right now, there is no answer for them. And if you look at the production of Zervas, it's more Phoenix and 2 gateways. I mean, if these Thors come across the map with Hellions, they literally have nothing that can deal with them at all.
He needs to switch to Void Ray production, as far as I'm concerned, to start cutting through those Thors at this point.
Yeah, he's even upgrading air attack, so I mean, I guess he agrees with you. It's gotta be something along those lines. Katz is like, his role right now is to just take bullets. He's just catching them all.
Oh, he's doing that pretty well. I'll give him that.
Yeah, he's just getting battered right and left while igers is powering up, and it's working. Right now, again, as you pointed out, mYinsanity has a stronger economy between the 2 players, but they have no army that can deal with just the simple production of igers.
Yeah, igers is pushing across the map with a lot of Hellions. There's Lings coming to back this up as well, along with Banelings. So the detonation, that magical detonation to kill the Hellions is going to happen. There are Stalkers to help defend here, and there's some Roaches out as well. So this game isn't over yet. This is actually a wild 2v2 between these 2 players right now. And mYinsanity has recovered significantly in terms of economy. Like I said, Katz has just been punched to death over and over again. He's still in the game by the grace of God, but as it stands, like this Thor pressure is going to be wild. There's 7 Thors. Yeah. There's not enough Lings on the field to even think about killing that many Thors.
Now, kind of a developing thing as this goes. Right now, the Thors have no answer, and they're kind of shifting around. So, do they attack? If they do, this would be the time, because as we kind of take foot here, Immortals are coming out, Roaches are coming out, Voiders coming out. These are answers to Thors. And again, keep in mind, Katz is just now building his own Roach War in Evo Chamber. He has eons behind his opponents, so he won't be much in the way of a support for this, and this attack is coming now. Now, Hellbats, that's a nice mix. I forgot that basically, I don't know that I forgot, I just wasn't thinking about it. They transform into little bullies themselves. They're like mini Thors.
Oh my god, this is ridiculous. This March of Death, I don't see this being stopped.
Nah,
there's so many Thors. And as you said, with the Hellbats in play, you can't do a Lynx around. How the hell do you kill this many Thors?
Zervas is supply block. He's otherwise trying to make double immortal. That's a good start. But even again, the Hellbats do such a good job of taking that damage.
If that Void Ray hadn't taken that Widowmine shot, it would have been able to do a lot of damage here. But I think, like, obviously, Void Rays do pretty well against Thors, but there's so many of them, and all of these Overlords are getting gunned down as well. So we're going to see a huge supply block for Winter as all the Overlords die to the Thors. We look at the amount of missiles that are in the air right now. This fight is hard to predict because it's so crazy, but I guess we're going to see it. Oh no, all the Phoenix is just getting gunned down. The Void Ray's dead, the Oracles are dead, and now the Roaches are going to get ripped apart as well. Stalker's backing this up. There's this Immortal that's like, I can do it, guys, I can do it. But can he?
Tanks back there. I mean, look at the Phoenix just scrambling to contribute. It isn't going to be much. And no, igers went into this fight with more supply by himself than the Zerg and Protoss combined. Katz contributed where he could. He even has 4 drones here to bear witness to the slaughter. That's nice, I guess. And igers, they played their roles though. It's not to be downlooked that Katz.
There's 2 more. This is not over yet. There's 2 Immortals and a Void Ray at the top of this ramp.
Well, it isn't technically over. No.
There's actually 3 Immortals now, but he just took a lot of fire there. 1 Immortal does go down. But yeah, I think you're right at this point. Igers' economy is difficult to dominate, but holy crap, like, that was a wild game. Mana Spine Crawlers going down on the creep there. There's the GG, and that's a pickup there for Root, who extend their lead to 3-1 here.
Yeah, they got a commanding position. A ace match would be a surprise this time around, but we have seen actually a 3-1 deficit erased.
We've seen a 3-0 deficit.
Oh god, that's been done as well.
Yep.
But a nice match, I have to agree with you. It was really chaotic, very aggressive, and again, we spent a lot of time kind of laughing at Cat's position, but that is kind of Zerg in 2 versus 2. They have the early game strength of speed and mobility, but then after that, 2 armies versus, you know, Zerg units is typically pretty tough on them. And Cats he did take a bit of a gambit that ends up being okay in going for the early game aggression. It got pushed off really strong by Team mYinsanity, but then Cloaked Banshees happened, and they just weren't prepared for it, and then didn't handle the continuation of the Cloaked Banshees very well either.
Yeah, that's very true. If Igers had taken more punishment and his economy hadn't rolled as well as it had, then I think we would have probably seen a bit of a different game there. And it was certainly a bit strange, to say the least. Like, you don't generally see that composition marching across the map, and it's hard to deal with. If it had been seen earlier, and if Immortals had come out earlier, then I think maybe, yes, it would have been a different fight. If those 3 Immortals were ready by the time those had arrived, instead of there just being 1, I think that the Thors would have actually lost that fight. But as it stands, it just didn't happen that way, so there you go. Alright, folks, we're going to be back after the break, and it's going to be a Zerg versus Zerg, assuming they haven't decided to change that as well. And it's going to be Solo versus Kane on Sun Cross, which is a nice big map. So, will Root be able to close it out 4-1? Will Solo be able to make that happen, or will Kane be able to start the comeback here for mYinsanity? We'll find out after the break. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Sun Cross, the largest map in the map pool, and this is mYinsanity Kane, who by all accounts is the largest Zerg in the map pool. He is in the pink trunks playing Zerg to the east. Take that however you please. To the west position, in the blue trunks, also playing Zerg, he is Root Solo.
And ZVZ right now has been a bit of a strong suit for Zergs. The European Zergs in particular have been complaining about ZVP. Not a huge shocker there. They just kind of complain in general. But Kane has embedded himself a little bit with those European Zerg players. Has been making a lot of trips over there, spent some time with mYinsanity in their house. In fact, I don't think he still lives there. I think he moved back to Canada, but that's kind of where he got his upbringing. So he's a very strong ZVZ player, and we've been seeing a lot. I've been seeing a lot of his games. He hasn't himself been streaming as much, but he's been playing on everyone else's streams because he's just a big practice guy, plays all the time.
Yep.
And he's a monster. He is a monstrously good player right now.
Yeah, he is. And that puts Solo certainly as, on paper, the underdog in this matchup, which is a bit of a shame because Root surely would have loved to close this series out 4-1. They may still be able to pull that off, but Kane is really, really good at StarCraft. So that's something to consider. Yeah. Solo, we haven't seen so many results from him as of yet.
No, I'm trying to scratch my head because I know I've seen his name in a few different places, but I almost want to even say I think he's Swedish and I think he's super young, but that is me scraping at the remnants of a memory far gone, so I'm not entirely sure that I'm accurate on that, but I'm interested to see what he does here. Again, this is a big win. If mYinsanity has a nice draw here to make it 3-2, I would imagine. With the Kane being the favorite, but it is ZVZ, and a lot of people will say, you know, it's not a coin flip by any means, not at all.
Not anymore.
And it's less so now than it ever was, but it is a mirror matchup, and weird things do happen. There are timing attacks where I don't need to have 500 APM in the best micro on the planet Earth, but if I execute it really well and they're not ready for it, they die. And that, of course, is true to every matchup, but it's more so true in mirror matchups, I would say.
Now what we have is a cross-spawn position situation. This is an 8-spawn map, but only 5 spawns are potentially active. Since you can't spawn right next to someone, that would be ridiculous on either side. So it's a difficult map to scout. We have seen players attempt cheese on this map before, but most of the time you see a heavy economic opening on Suncross, because why the hell not? You know, the chances of your opponent actually getting there in time with any units to stop you, limited. But sometimes we see players will try and go for some nasty little cheesy tech because, again, they don't think they're going to get scouted either. So it kind of works both ways.
I could see it working out that way, too. And it's also worth noting this map is fairly wide open as well. Like, when I say wide open, I don't mean horrifically wide open. But what I do mean is that at each engagement point, there certainly is a bottleneck spot like these bridges across the middle. But outside the bridges, it's fairly wide open. It's not too congested of a map, and each expansion has multiple pathways into it. I guess the point I'm trying to illustrate is, again, in a ZVZ, there can be a lot of lane counters, but there's also a lot of roach counters depending on what situation we get ourselves into. And that's something to look at, because if you can bottleneck a base and put a couple of spine crawlers and, you know, a queen there, that's a fairly staunch defense. But if it's wide open, all of a sudden the options for like lane counterattacks and that speed can really start to come into play.
What we see is a really easy to take third base, but there's also vulnerability later on in the game because those rocks can be knocked down. So if you take the third relatively early, you're pretty safe. You can use queens to block off the ramp. We've seen that before. You can use a spine crawler there, as long as you don't knock down your own debris, and of course, you know, you generally wouldn't in that situation. So that works out pretty well, and I think that Kane realizes that, so he's going to take his base a little bit earlier. The question is, what is Solo going to do from here? Because Solo is getting speed, and he's now building his Roach Warren at the front, so he looks like he wants to get a little bit aggressive here.
And we do see Lair from Kane. So that, to me, says mid opening. A lot of times, if you're going to go Roaches, well, in ZVZ anyways, you go Evo Chamber, Roach Warren before Lair, precisely for those earlier timing attacks, like Ling Baneling or even just fast Roaches. But he's going to go Lair here, which could end up being, as I say that, though, there is the Evolution Chamber and the Roach Warren. So no, it's going to be Roaches for himself. But I really like the speed of his third hatch. I mean, look at the two builds. They essentially have the same stuff. They both have speed. They both have Evolution Chamber, Roach Warren finishing up here in a second. A Lair for Kane and a third hatch. Excuse me, yeah, third hatch is like the difference I see. Okay, there's the difference. So Solo saved up for a gigantic explosion of Roaches. And these will, of course, be spotted by the Overlord of Kane that's outside his natural, but what's the travel time like? Because if these Roaches get here... Well, okay, Kane's making Roaches too, though. He's just got that great star sense. If those are drones, he's just dead right now.
Yeah, I'm not 100% convinced here by Solo's attack attempt. Defender's advantage comes into play here. This is a pretty big map. By the time that Solo makes his way across, there'll be spine crawlers, maybe. Actually, Kane's not building any spines, which I think might be a mistake. Maybe Kane underestimates the number of Roaches that are about to knock on the door. He knows about them now. But as you said, Kane is building Roaches of his own. He's going to have about 10 by the time this Roach attack hits. So Solo doesn't have, like, I think, a big enough advantage to really make this push work.
No, it's kind of a weird timing attack. It's like he built a third behind this as well, but no layer, so it's just... He still has some extra money left over. If he can get both the Evolution Chamber and the Roach Warren, that's the nice start to this.
Yeah,
but if speed finishes for Kane and he's able to keep producing Roaches, I have to agree with you. I don't know what Solo could possibly make of this.
The reinforcement time's just so ridiculous. It looks like Solo is gonna... Oh, there's the transfuse. Ah, nice. Kane just... He waits as long as he possibly can to get a few extra units out and then jumps right on top of Solo. I mean, that is the classic Kane we know and love. He's well prepared for this. He drives this away, and as you said, it's a bit of a weird timing, and it obviously didn't pay off, and Kane now has a gigantic lead. His third is established. He did lose his Evolution Chamber, which does kind of suck, but he kept his Roach Warren up. So now Kane has the Roach lead, and he has speed, which means all these Roaches are dead.
Well, I mean, we basically have seen the conclusion of the game, and I think one of the kind of small points to make is that this ends up looking silly, and Kane is just going to flat out take care of business, but had he actually gotten a little bit more greedy and made like 6 drones there instead of Roaches, we could see a full reversal of results here, and Solo's looking like the smartest guy on planet Earth, but as it is, Kane is that super savvy player who's on the cusp of excellence. He's not quite there yet, but this is the kind of performance you expect from a guy that is traveling the world playing this game for money. And Solo is still aspiring to those kind of levels. It looks like Kane's going to back up to draw this on a little bit, but he's got a 30 supply advantage, pushing 40. The Evolution Chamber that died, yeah, it's been remade, and it's still going to finish faster than any upgrade ever would for Solo.
Yep. Kane's going to go for Tunneling Claws, which... I mean, I'm not 100% sure about that, but I guess, you know, the regen versus no regen, if you micros properly, that's devastating.
They're great.
Very hard to deal with.
They move so damn fast below the ground, there's almost no reason not to. And like I said, it's such a wide open map. Also, look at the, well, okay. I was going to say look at the detection abilities of Solo, but as I said that, he literally then began an Overseer. But other than that, he has nothing.
Yeah, he did. I was checking to see if he actually got that layer up, and he did. But he is a bit of a vulnerability. One of the things of this map is there are back rocks, and Solo made no effort to spread creep or even position an Overlord to keep an eye on that. So Kane is going to move right into the main, and that probably means a dead spawning pool immediately. Yeah. A dead one-shotted Queen, most likely. Yeah, I mean, the layer's under threat as well, not to mention the drones. This is dangerous, and Burrow is not quite done yet, but I mean, if this fight goes on for long enough, it will be, and I mean, I don't think it even matters. Look at the supply difference. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah. These are +1 roaches, huge supply difference. GG is called out, and Kane takes care of business. He needed to. His team's down 3-1. If he would have lost that, it would have been a 4-1 domination from Team Root there. But Kane is also a good candidate, by the way, for their ace match. If they win the next match to push it to ace, he would be one of the favorites from Team mYinsanity to represent them.
The last 3 Clan Wars has been just that. Like, we've actually had a situation where it's gone 4-3 every time.
Nice. So, well, I'm excited about that. Those are great games.
Yeah, it is. They really are. I mean, I love to see the ace match, of course. The ace is a bit of a strange one because, of course, more often than not, the players don't have time to prep for that map. So in this case, the ace match would be Orichalcum, so it's not too crazy. We're about to see Crazy, because Crazy Clash is up next. It's going to be Gosu User versus Winter.
That segue!
Oh, yeah. I don't know. I don't know how this is going to go. This is going to be a bit strange, to say the least. But we're going to see it after the break. Gosu User is a strong candidate to just bop mYinsanity here, and Winter obviously is not one of the stronger players. Let's see if he can pull it off, though. With a well-prepared build, he might be able to. We'll find out after the break. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, just to confuse you and the casters even more, we are now on the ace match. And you might be wondering, why are you on the ace match? It was supposed to be match 6. Well, Gosu User didn't bother to show up, meaning that that's a forfeit for Team Root, who have now
Well, he did show up, but then an hour later disappeared.
Yes, he was there and then vanished for no reason. So Root throws away their 3-1 lead, basically, and it's now the ace match. So there we go. Never mind. Alright, well, it's 3-3 apiece, and it's down to this last map, and the ace for mYinsanity will be Kane. He's in the pink trunks in the southeast position of Orichalcum versus his opponent, who is now playing for, like, the 3rd time today. I'm pretty sure Root's just cheating. It's like, yeah, we'll have igers again. It's like, hang on a minute, how many times has igers played? So the northwest position in the red trunks playing Terran. It is, of course, Root igers, the Australian Terran. But, yeah, he's got quite the workout today.
He does. They're getting mileage out of the Australian workhorse, as it were.
Yep.
Forfeits happen and they suck. The kind of frustrating part is if it was just a single forfeit amidst this entire match, maybe not the biggest of deals. Yeah, it sucks and it's not great, but it's been the other things too, so it kind of sucks. I do have to say though, like, and I'm going to tell this story every single time because it deserves to be told. Jaedong is our sole forfeit, and that's because he was ready to go for his match sitting in lobby and then decided without telling anyone that he had to go poo-poo. So he got up and went and apparently took a 5-minute shit.
He actually took 15 minutes. We waited
there you go.
15 minutes for him. So I don't know what exactly he's being fed over there. Is Jaedong in a team house right now, or what's
He
going
is
on with
now.
that? Yeah.
During that match, he wasn't. He was still in Korea, so we cannot blame this on America. Not
Can we
yet.
blame it on his parents?
He lived with his brother. Could blame it on his brother.
So it's brother's fault. All right, okay, fair enough.
Which is possible. If two brothers living together, it could have been like macaroni with extra cheese and just like literally a bag of hot dogs in there or something like that, and that would take 15 minutes to get out of your body. I
It's
imagine.
entirely possible, yes. It's like he literally ate a bag of rocks just before his matchup to get himself hyped up. I can imagine that. He'd be the sort of person to chow down on minerals for breakfast.
Yeah, but like spicy minerals, you know, not just...
Naturally.
He is a man of, he's a cultured man who's traveled the worlds. So we do get a ZVT to end here, and Kane, you can see a little bit of a different opening from him. He was predicting 2 racks coming out of igers. He did not get it. He's going to get a low ground CC, but it should finish before these lings get here. Now, if they would have got here before it finished, this could be disastrous for igers, who's not even walled in, by the way. Losing the CC, losing everything would have been really bad. As it is, these lings will get in. And the first Marine is only now stepping out. Oh, God, he gets surrounded immediately.
That's a lovely move. And he gets 4 in, and he's going to send the other 2 around there as well. He almost gets the surround on that SCV, but it is mineral walking, so it's able to sneak back out. But some damage could be done here. Let's see how good igers' micro is.
And I'll tell you what, Kane's kicking himself right now because he's getting great damage and nice micro here.
If he kept following this up, yeah.
But exactly, TotalBiscuit. He's not following it up. There's no lings coming across the map. He's making queens, he's making drones, and he's like, gosh, if I would have just been a little bit more of an all-in cheesy boob, I would have just flat out won the game.
Yeah. As it stands,
he's anticlimactic ace match.
Yeah, certainly. He's going to slow his opponent down quite a lot, which is good. You know, he's going to give himself a slight lead here. We're going to see one dead Marine. No, we're not. The other one comes up and just pieces of Zergling just splatter all over that lucky Marine there as he finishes that off. But that was 3 workers killed. Definitely some delay, some lost mining time. There was a dead Marine in there as well. I mean, for 6 lings, I'd say that was a nice little play. But you're right. You're totally right. If he just kept building lings, then I don't think igers would have been able to keep up with it.
Right. But I mean, of course, and the reason he didn't, in case people were wondering, is like if there is a second depot at this wall in, there's no 3 SCVs killed, maybe 1, maybe a single Marine, and just 0 damage. And even with the damage done, we can look up there, we can see a supply advantage for the Zerg. Well, that's for now. But it's quickly the gap between that and the Terran supply is gonna close. So he did do damage, but nowhere near game-ending damage. igers has to be completely comfortable with where he's at. He's on 2 base versus a 2 base Zerg, which again, in and of itself is not lights out. But Kane is having to drone hard to make up the difference from his opening.
Yes, yeah, he is. And he's fine with that for the time being because igers really doesn't have the ability to be aggressive yet. But once he gets the starport out, we might see that change around. So let's see what he's doing. He's going to go with the medevac. Okay, I like that. He's going to most likely go with a bit of Hellion elevation. He'll be able to, of course, throw a few Marines in there for good measure. And I see Baneling Tech, a Spine coming up here as well for Kane, which I do like. And then we've got the Lair coming up as well. Very late speed, of course. That's to be expected. Ooh, Armory. Okay, igers looks to go for the Hellbat push here.
Yeah, we've seen this dominate TVZ matchups. Again, certainly more in the past than recent. Zerg has gotten more comfortable in dealing with this. This is where Kane's potential 2-base play is actually going to help him out a little bit. He's going to obviously want to stretch out to 3 bases, but Banelings, Lings, and Queens is a decent answer to Hellbats. It's not the best, obviously, but it's okay. And this early pressure coming in here would be a terrible thing for Kane if he had a 3rd hatch on an island by itself. But instead, he's only got the 2 bases. He has a good number of queens. And while these lings are slow, and that is bad... Oh, excuse me, speed just now finishes. He's in an okay position to hold this off at little cost.
Yeah, he's got a spine. I also like the Baneling nest position. It's going to make the Hellbat's job a little harder to get to the drone line. But yeah, that is not a good time to morph in Banes right on top of that. The Spinecrawler is actually in range, is going to contribute. There's the focus fire down on the medevac there. And there's Morlings with a good Baneling hits. Is it good enough? There should be enough queens to finish this off.
Yes, I mean, look at what just 1 Baneling did. He actually only went for, I think, 4 Banelings in total. but only one makes its way out into the world, and just the AoE damage alone, without the healing properties of that medevac, means that this attack is repelled.
Super
The
efficient.
supply advantage remains in Kane's favor. Again, the gap is closing, and now he takes a third base. But again, I want to reiterate, had he had a third base, he would have lost that and everything you just saw, which would have been devastating.
All right, well, we're going to see a Cloaked Banshee follow-up here, but this, I mean, Lair's already done, and there's a Spire already on the way. I don't think this is going to get much done. That said, igers has done a lot with Cloaked Banshees this series. I don't blame him for trying it again. We're going to see full mech out of igers here.
Oh, I like this. You know, I've been a big fan of mech. I've also seen a lot of Zergs complaining about, with the Swarm Host nerf, what can they possibly do against mech? Apparently, it's very powerful. Of course, it's a little bit less hyperbolic than that. It's more, you know, you got to get in some damage, you got to overexpand, that kind of stuff.
Sure.
But Kane needs to be able to identify that it's mech that he's facing fairly soon. If you look across the map, he moved that Overlord to deny the third, which is really cool and nice, and actually really cool against mech, because there's, as you can see right now, there's zero anti-air options.
You got to build a Viking, and you're busy building Banshees, so, you know, that in itself is a disadvantage.
Or a missile turret, but in any way, it's a super big delay, and he can actually just move the Overlord a little bit more and spread the creep still.
Nice.
Cloak Banshee shows up into a world that it is not meant for, as you said. He's gotten a lot accomplished with Cloak Banshees, but this is not it.
No. Ling's on the way around, trying to get the surround here. Good shots coming off. Oh, he doesn't quite get it. A couple of Banelings do detonate, and that's most of the Hellions dead. Not all of them, but enough for now that the Queens can just deal with it. He's going to need to transfuse that one Queen, though, before it gets picked off by that Banshee. And another Banshee comes in. We have the detection here, but it looks like Kane doesn't want to quite engage, but the Muters are now coming out. So this is where this force just isn't going to do the job anymore.
Nope. And a couple of Queens die, and, you know, the space hasn't been saturated yet, so it's not like it was a complete loss of these Hellions, but seeing that number of Hellions after already facing the first wave means that Kane can reliably say to himself, I'm facing mech right now.
Yes.
Before even seeing things like the Thors. So Kane's going to have to adjust accordingly, and already has. Double Evo Chamber, range, and carapace upgrades, and Roach is coming out. He might be able to hit a nice timing attack.
Yep, we'll see if he can manage that just before too many tanks come out. I mean, there's no tanks right now. There's barely any units on the field here for igers at this time, because it took him a while to get the factories up and start to transition. The Muters are not really an option anymore, though, and he needs to back away. He knows that. He loses the Muter on the way out. Maybe he gets a bit of poking done on the third base because the Thors are going to be spread out, but now is not the time for Muters. What it is the time for is, of course, amazing creep spread, which is exactly what we're seeing here from Kane again. Not the first time we've seen that from him. He's really good at it, and that's going to give him an edge.
It is, and he's going to need that edge because he's already making Roaches. He's going for Baneling speed here as well, so this tells me we're going to see a Baneling Roach timing attack. But this third's not mining its gas. It's not even fully saturated. So this will function as a pseudo all-in. He's even starting +2 attack here as well. And the reason I say pseudo is because it doesn't need to win him the game, but it needs to do enough damage to Iagaz to knock him down a notch or two, because if it doesn't, the econ sacrifices Kane is making right now will make waves later in the game.
Yep. And bear in mind that while the Muters did stop a bit of the aggression there, they're now pretty much useless. And that was kind of a large gas investment. It was, what, 8 or 9 Mutilus, so 900 gas or so, plus the cost of the Spire. So Kane is having to transition out, and there's tanks on the way. This is concerning me somewhat for Kane's viability in this game, especially since he's still only on 3 bases, and the Terran's on 3. You know, you want to be 1 base ahead, ideally.
And here comes that counterattack. The Muters are just a distraction, and they did work. A gigantic force is going to sweep in here into the natural.
Knock, knock.
Actually, it's going to push towards the third. He might want to go after the Thors themselves. The Thors are exposed. He pushes in. He might be able to kill all the Thors, and if he does, this will set Iagaz back. He does get all the Thors. Without the tank support and without good positioning, they just simply die. Iagaz is going to have to relocate to behind that wall. That tank is too far forward. It can be reached through the deep wall.
Beautiful move. Did you see what Kane did? He threw his Muters to change the target priority of the Thors, so the Thors couldn't even shoot the Roaches. 37 workers killed. Looks like mYinsanity is going to get away with this after a huge counter. 55 workers killed. What a devastating counter blow as Kane hammers home this win for mYinsanity.
He's on top of the production. There's a lone cloaked Banshee. That's it. He taps out, does Iagaz, and that means Kane hits the critical timing, as you said, and he needed it then and there. I mean, if he doesn't, he's on equal basis with the Terran. He's facing mech. 5 Thors, manageable. 10 Thors, forget about it. Especially with, you know, tank support, like you said, were being added in there. All of a sudden, Roaches just get they just get windshield wiped. They just get blown off the face of the earth. But at that time, right there in that position, Kane was able to strike a decisive blow and win the game and the match for the team.
Well, Ghost Use is going to be the dishwasher by the looks of it for next week, because letting Kane go to town on a map like that was maybe not the best idea. Root had that in the bag, and they let it slip out of their hands, and mYinsanity picks up a crucial win here in the Clan Wars. They were a very strong team in the first season, but haven't quite been keeping up with that. And I think it's mostly due to some forfeits. We had Rain not show up the last time, which was devastating. They basically lost the match as a result of that. So it's good for them to pick up a win here with pretty much a strong roster of foreigners and not actually relying on, I would say they're Koreans, but they don't really have Koreans anymore. Jackji has now left, so Rain was really their player, and it seemed like Rain wasn't really showing up, so that wasn't really helping them out now. But they look pretty good right now. I mean, they still have Saxry, of course, who has played well and crushed in the last series, but Kane is looking so good. Zervas put on a good showing as well. They've got some good strong guys on their team, so they're looking good.
And you know, one of the hard balances to strike as well for teams is a lot of these guys they're at DreamHack, they're practicing for WCS, like they have other things to do. So putting together a team is actually quite difficult, and it speaks to the depth of the roster, which is really nice. That's why it's kind of cool to see some of these guys step in and get some big wins, like Blisk with that really nice build against cazer. I mean, you don't necessarily think of that guy as a threat at DreamHack, no, but here he is getting a big win for his team and $500, which is pretty awesome.
Not bad for an hour or so's work, you know?
No, not bad at all.
Yep, can't really complain. But yeah, you're right. I think Blisk actually getting that win was potentially crucial there for mYinsanity, because Root otherwise was stomping all over them for a while. And if Blisk hadn't got that early win, then, especially considering Queenie was up against Supernova, so that was pretty much writing on the wall there, we would have seen mYinsanity in a much, much worse position. Of course, Root's forfeit definitely did not help them. Root could have closed it out before that, but there you go. mYinsanity takes advantage. That's just the way the game works, folks. And mYinsanity takes it 4-3. That's now 4 Clan Wars in a row that have gone to the ace. So, actually, it might even be 5. Like, it's been ridiculous. It's been as Bunu versus Clan Who, Prime versus mYinsanity, Root Gaming versus Axiom. They all went to the ace. The last match that we had that didn't go to the ace was Yo Flash Wolves taking on MVP, which was a 4-1 stomping. Wow. Well, there you go, folks. That is the series for today. We do have more Clan Wars coming.
Kane, by the way, just tweeted, shout out to Ghost User. Much appreciated.
Oh, nice. Well, I mean, it's, that's Root's problem, isn't it? If the team doesn't show up, then they can't win games. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Oh, well.
Hey-o.
Yep, Esbunu, I don't even know. We still don't know. We're not going to pretend to know. Startail taking on Team Baguette on May the 13th. I will not be casting that one because I'm actually going to be in hospital, probably on a lot of morphine, because I'm going to surgery on May the 12th. So someone else will be casting it. I did ask Nathanius to cast. I'm not sure if he's going to be available, but I'll let people know over the next couple of days. Someone will cast it. I just can't currently tell you who that's going to be. After that, May the 18th, I will be back for that one. And that is going to be Axiom versus the new team of Complexity IG, which is maybe one of the oddest matchups we've seen in a while. Complexity and the Chinese team IG, who are also currently playing with Prime, I believe. So IG's all over the place right now.
I mean, if you're gonna get out there full bore.
Yeah, why not? And of course, Axiom now is partnered with Rockhat, so they'll be able to field Hyun, who's a replacement for Impact, who just today announced that he has joined SKT1, so congratulations to Impact for that. And after that, your team, EG, is going to be breaking it out against Root Gaming on May the 20th.
Yeah, we're having a really good time with it. The maps, like, again, for pro gamers, silly maps are a little bit like, you kind of look at it and you're like, I'm not super stoked about this, but then in practice playing on them, the maps are so damn well designed and just different and fun that actually it's been a really nice thing for us. We, and I'll say this too, in the past, EG's really struggled in Clan Wars. We kind of been at each other's throats. We're very high intense. We're at all the tournaments, so making time for it's tough. And then losing is something that we all hate. But the kind of relaxed atmosphere, the fun, different maps, it's really brought us together, and it's been awesome.
Yep, I look forward to seeing them. And the last match of the month will be the one that a lot of people have been waiting for. Both teams actually requested this. These are the teams that, of course, play together in Pro League, but are going to be playing against each other in Clan Wars. Yo Flash Wolves versus Binu. It's going to be fantastic. That's going to be a great series.
I hope Yoey Flash Wolves brings their big guns. They've got, it's like you don't even know. You're like, oh, wow, that guy's on that team too? What the hell? Yeah, he is. He's the guy that wears that weird owl shirt at tournaments. That's Yoey Flash Wolves. Oh, okay.
Well, I mean, they brought out Parting in the last series, and he stomped all over Choya, so if they use Parting again, if they bring out Lenok, and of course, the mighty Haas, Master of Cheese, I mean, they've got a lot going for them, and Yo Flash Wolves have won both of their Clan Wars up to this point against Korean teams 4-1. So, that's... I mean, they're strong. They're really strong. Startail, I don't believe Startail has dropped a series yet, by the looks of it. I think they've done 2, possibly 3. Yeah, they've done 3 series, and they haven't lost yet, but it's been really close. Like, they 4-3'd Root Gaming, and they 4-3'd Clan Who, which is not real, and they also 4-3'd Axiom. So it's been really close every single time for them. But they did just add, like, half of Kesper to their team, so I think that would probably help.
Yeah, and... You know, like you said, there's been so many ace matches. You just listed off 3 of them.
Yeah.
That they've got to the ace match, which, as a spectator and in this case a caster, I can't say I'm complaining. Ace matches are the most fun. They're really thrilling.
Yep, that's very true. All right, folks, that pretty much wraps us up for the day. Reruns will begin shortly here on MLG.TV. If you are afraid about missing any Clan Wars, you can catch the spoiler-free VODs over on youtube.com/TotalBiscuit. This one will be up tomorrow afternoon. I would also like to point out that if you click the follow button on mlg.tv/shoutcraft, you will be contacted as to when the next Clan War is. So if we go live, it'll be like, hey, here we're live, come and see us. And also, if you happen to have the smartphone app on your either your tablet or your smart device, then you will also be notified via a pop-up notification that tells you, hey, we're live and we're going to be showing you some great StarCraft action. Big thanks, of course, to In Control once again for co-casting today.
My pleasure, man. Thanks for having me.
All right, we're going to be running some reruns in a few minutes, folks, here on MLG TV. Big thanks to MLG for providing $5,000 a month in sponsorship. Clan Wars would not exist without them, and they would not exist without you watching. So big thanks for coming out today and watching the Clan War. Hopefully you had a lot of fun, and we will see you next time.